Recently, we've talked a lot about how the Dodgers have been collecting free agents like Infinity Stones. Well, the Orioles, they've been collecting things as well, all right. Grandfathers. They've been collecting grandfathers. All jokes aside, I'm so confused by what the Orioles have done this offseason. Not only giving a 41-year-old almost $20 million, they gave a 35-year-old, never-before-seen Japanese guy who doesn't strike out anyone almost $15 million. What are the Orioles doing? We also have some smaller stories to talk about in today's recap, so if you've never hit that subscribe button, today is the best day to do so. You guys went crazy yesterday, almost 300 subs yesterday. Let's see if we can beat that today. Also, don't forget that recap is brought to you by SeatGeek and Underdog Fantasy. Use code Fuzzy. Before we talk about the Orioles giving a grandfather, Charlie Morton, $15 million, let's talk about the fact that the Angels, they were beat by the Dodgers, even though they weren't outbid by the Dodgers. The Angels offered Hyeseong Kim. I want to make sure I got that name right because yesterday a lot of you guys flamed me for saying Hyeseong Kim. It's Hyeseong Kim. I think I said it right, but he was offered more money by the Angels. So the Dodgers got Kim for 3 years, $12.5 million. But if they accept the team option for 2028 and 2029, it gets up to a 5-year contract, $22 million. The Angels just flat out offered him 5 years, $28 million. That's a lot more money guaranteed. The Angels did everything that they could, and it still wasn't enough. And maybe it's because the Dodgers are run so well that, they're winning championships, and after winning a championship, they're putting $100 million into rebuilding their clubhouse to reward their players. They do everything right, and players, they just want a piece of that. They don't care if they're taking a discount to do it. But while we're on the subject of the Halos, what do you think the Angels are going to do in 2025? We always have high expectations, and then they just let us down. So they've added Jorge Soler, Yusei Kikuchi, you have Travis d'Arnaud, and a Kyle Hendricks. Kyle Hendricks would have been cool like 5 years ago, but what do we expect from the 2025 Halos? If they stay healthy, what's their ceiling? And staying healthy is a big if. I'm going to put my Dodger hat on for 2 more short stories. We have 1 more Korean player to talk about, and everyone's saying he's a Dodger after I posted the stats of maybe the Korean Ronald Acuña Jr. His name is Do-Young Kim. Come on, guys, be nice to me. I don't know these names. If I'm mispronouncing them, be nice. It's not that I don't care. Anyways, look at these bat flips. The kid hit 347 with 38 home runs and 40 stolen bases at 21 years old. Now, a lot of people in yesterday's Hyeseong Kim video, they told me that the leagues that are out there, it's kind of like AA and Major League Baseball, so you have to take the stats with a grain of salt. But 21 years old, bat flipping like crazy, almost going 40-40 while hitting 350. If Do-Young Kim ever gets posted, I want him. Please be a Guardian, but he's going to be a Dodger, probably. It's going to happen. One guy who is not a Dodger anymore, which came completely out of left field. This one shocked me because the Dodgers have DFA'd Diego Cartaya, a young former super prospect who literally was in the top 20 2 years in a row. And when I say top 20, I mean top prospects in all of Major League Baseball, and I lied. So he was the 28th prospect in 2022. He won the Minor League Player of the Year for the Dodgers that season. He got moved to 14th in 2023 before things just kind of hit the fan. His batting average dropped to 189 and then 221 this past season. This is like the Mets announcing that they were moving on from Francisco Alvarez. That's how highly touted Diego Cartaya was. He was untouchable. You could not call and ask for him in any trade. The Dodgers did not care. They were hanging up. They thought they had the next him at catcher. It's just insane how the Dodgers operate. They can move on from a former mega prospect without much thought because they have another guy waiting. Dalton Rushing. He has a 930 OPS in the minor leagues. He's now a top 100 prospect. Where do the Dodgers find these guys? They're so good at everything. And maybe that's why people accuse me of glazing the Dodgers, because I give them a lot of props. But imagine if the Orioles invested in their team like the Dodgers. But then again, people are going to say it's unfair to compare because the local TV money is so vast when it comes to Dodgers versus Orioles that the Dodgers have infinite money to spend. I understand that, but the Orioles are owned by a bunch of billionaires. Perhaps I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but the Orioles were literally sold a few months ago, and the new owner said, we want to spend a lot of money. They literally celebrated by buying everyone a beer. Literally everyone that they could see, you got a beer, you got a beer. They were celebrating. The Orioles just announced that they gave 41-year-old Charlie Morton $15 million. Literally someone's great-grandpappy got paid. Charlie Morton was drafted into Major League Baseball before the Orioles' second baseman Jackson Holliday was even born. Now here's one fun stat that I found about Charlie Morton that maybe the Orioles scouting team looked at and said, hey, we could get lucky this year. So here are the last 6 seasons for Charlie Morton. He had a 3 ERA, then he had a 4.7 ERA, so good and then bad. He then was back to good with a 3.3 ERA, back to bad a 4.4 ERA, back to decent at 3.6, and then in 2024 up to a 4.1. So if the trend continues, he should be back in the 3 ERAs. I don't know if the scouting department looks at something like that, but maybe they do. They probably don't, but I'm looking at it, and that's a trend. Now, the only thing that Charlie did kind of well last year was he kept the ball on the ground, and that's important because the Orioles, if you guys have forgotten or maybe you haven't kept up, maybe you're on vacation, the Orioles are moving their left field wall back in. It used to be Mount Baltimore, and you could not hit anything over that left field wall. They're moving it back in because they overestimated it. It was going to cost them free agents because they don't want to play there. They're not going to hit home runs. So they want a guy that can keep the ball on the ground relatively often, but to cheap out as often as they have, like, it's just a recipe for pissing off your fan base after the fan base was told by the new owners, hey, we're not the old guys. We're going to come in and spend some money. So here's how free agency has gone for the Orioles in terms of starting pitching. They lost Corbin Burnes, and they brought in a 35-year-old, never-before-seen Japanese starter, Tomoyuki Sugano, and no disrespect to him, but again, I just haven't seen enough of him because he doesn't strike guys out, and you need some whiff stuff if you want to be good in Major League Baseball. Like this, it's just a fact of life. And then after that, you bring in the dinosaur. I know I sound disrespectful, but I'm sure that Orioles fans also feel disrespected. They give 41-year-old Charlie Morton $15 million, and that's after giving $13 million to Tomoyuki Sugano. Like, that's not nothing. That's almost $30 million that you could have given to one guy who's better than both. Grayson Rodriguez has to stay healthy. He is the wild card. He had a 3.7 ERA and 96 strikeouts his final 80 innings last year before he missed the rest of the season. Zach Eflin, I'll tip my cap to Michael Elias or Elias. I don't remember how to say his last name. That was a good trade for the Orioles. He put up like a 2.7, 2.6 ERA down the stretch, but then again, he's a free agent after the season. So do you trade him? Do you keep him for a postseason run and then lose him for nothing? Maybe give him a qualifying offer so you give a draft pick. Again, it's not the Orioles' fault that they lost out on Felix Bautista the year before. Then in 2024, they lost Kyle Bradish, who is a dog, Tyler Wells. Both of those guys should be ready for a second half comeback this upcoming season. So maybe the Orioles are cheaping out because they believe that much in a Bradish return, in a Tyler Wells return. Maybe I'm overreacting and Orioles fans have to kind of be patient and trust the process. Then again, trusting the process has seen them bounce in the first round, I think 2 or 3 years in a row. Like, haven't they been swept 2 years in a row in the first round? Call it glazing that I praise the Dodgers so much, and maybe the disparities in baseball are too great and I'm just ignorant to it all. Maybe I'm the problem. As a Guardians fan, watching the Orioles cheap out after building a generational young core when it comes to the offensive players, yes, you have to save money for an extension for Gunnar Henderson. That's not going to be cheap. He's a once-in-a-lifetime player. But yeah, 41-year-old Charlie Morton and 35-year-old Tomoyuki Sugano. If I'm an Orioles fan, I'm not moved. What do you guys think?